Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by our sponsor, ZDMS. ZDMS is built for dealerships ready to embrace change and unlock their full potential. Yep. As the industry evolves, outdated systems continue to hold dealers back with slow workflows, limited visibility, and operational inefficiencies. From multi-location management and streamlined workflows to real-time reporting and improved visibility across every department, ZDMS delivers a modern, scalable platform built to simplify operations, increase your efficiency, and support long-term dealership growth, allowing your team to spend less time managing software and more time driving results. Visit zdms.com, that's ZIIDMS.com today and schedule your demo. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dealership Fix It podcast. My name is Jacob, and my guest today has a resume that I think is almost unheard of in this industry. Chase Vance started out on the parts counter back in 2008 and worked his way up through every single seat in the Powersports store. We're talking sales, finance, GM, regional director, and a managing partner. And then the national director of business development at the RideNow Powersports group, the largest in the country. So he recently made a move and he stepped out of the operations into a new chapter. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. So we're also going to talk about every seat in the store taught him, what he learned about scaling in some of the big groups, and the honest story on why he decided to change direction. So Chase, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, let's kind of get the table set here. You started out on the parts counter back in 2008 and ended up as a national director at one of the biggest groups. Before we kind of get into all that, when you look back at that whole climb, what is the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew back then?
Oh man, just kind of what the opportunity was going to bring. I started off early. I wasn't an enthusiast. I didn't have really a passion for anything, but something told me to go into family power sports and put in an application, and then the rest is kind of history. I bought my first bike 2 weeks into this journey, and it just continued to move and grow and grow, and it was an exciting ride, and still is an exciting ride, and you know, um, through my career, if you will, through this, I learn something new every single day. It's kind of one of those things where if you stop learning, you need to go find a different room. And this new group that I'm with, I'm still learning so much from everybody. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to have sat in the room with some very high profile people in this industry. And I just continue to learn and be a sponge.
Yeah, always be learning, always be moving. Otherwise, you become stale and old, man. Yeah.
For sure.
So you came into this industry. Let's talk about your first position here as a parts professional. For a lot of people, parts is kind of an entry level seat, right? But you
Sure.
have said in the past that stores run on it. What did you find working in the parts department? What did that teach you that carried you all the way up to where you're at now?
The fascinating thing about parts that I think a lot of people may not understand right off the rip, or at least coming into the parts department, is how much of an integral piece that is to the dealership as a whole. Because it's not only like what being in parts teaches you to solve a problem, and you have to be able to solve that problem for the customer that comes in, and they have an issue. So they're coming to you as the parts professional, whether it be, hey, I've got an issue going on with my machine, or I want to accessorize my machine, or you're getting to also have the same excitement when somebody buys their first motorcycle, and you get to help accessorize that motorcycle and get them a helmet, get them a jacket, basically educate them through about what's going to protect them and how they can make their new machine look cool and make it their own. And so that's the exciting thing about parts. And what I find with a lot of uh, new hires is, they just think that it's the O'Reillys of the world. You come in and it's a battery, but it's so much more than that. And if you can see the excitement in somebody buying their new machine, there's nothing better than taking somebody that is buying a new side by side or buying a new motorcycle, and then they come in and accessorize exactly how they want with a smile on their face, and they're just so excited and they can't wait to show it off to all their friends. And you know, going back to the problem solving, like even when you're accessorizing a machine, you're still solving a problem for the customer that they otherwise didn't know was available. And what I've also found too is, a lot of people don't know that a lot of these things exist for the machine that they're buying. And that goes from on road, off road. You show somebody this new latest and greatest sound bar, or audio top, or light bar, all these accessory package. Like I see it all the time, even to this day. People are like, I had no idea that you could do that. I'm like, you can literally do anything. And so, that's the exciting part of it. But, where a lot of people, and even myself included, was you get frustrated on the days where all you're doing is chasing down oil filters and spark plugs, or
Yeah.
you've got to order a shim for a motor and it takes you 30 minutes to find a $2.50 part on a parts schematic. And you're just like, man, this is not what I signed up for. But then, you know, you get you get somebody that comes in and they buy a new Razor or a new Maverick, and next thing you know that, you just added $10,000 worth of stuff to this thing. And then you get to go see the end result when it comes out of service. And that's what I was always excited about. And I still tell people to this day, it's the thrill of the kill for me it doesn't matter if I'm selling a CRF 50 or if I'm selling a Mavar Max that's $50,000. Like the excitement for me is still there. And so after you accessorize somebody's machine and you just see this pride come through them of like, man, look at my new machine. You're like, I had something to do with that. I got to build that thing. That's what's cool. And I think, you know, that's part of the parts process that I think people miss.
You're so right. You're so right. There's something to be said about our business and the machines that we sell, that a lot of people like to accessorize them, but really they're personalizing them. They're putting their own little twist on that, and to have a well knowledge based parts associate to help them guide them through that process, show them all the options that they're available for that particular machine, they can kind of pick through, and it's like, yeah, I like this, but I don't like this, or this color, not that color, helmets, jackets, all that stuff. But it is such a complex business that we're in, with selling so many different types of products: on road, off road, PWC. You got the whole UTV, scene that just blew up in this whole time frame since early 2008, and it is really quite crazy. So that parts person has to be very knowledgeable on a lot of things. It may be an inch deep, but it's a mile wide lake that they have to fill this pool up with. So well, let's talk about that as a profit center, though. So, obviously that's the fun part, is getting to see them, just kind of shine with, oh my gosh, this thing is mine now. And, we're going to install this, install that. But let's talk about like the winning of the parts department and using it as a retention tool, right? So oftentimes a lot of customers don't buy right off the bat, or they don't have the type of funds available in their initial purchase to do that. How do you use the parts department and the associates within it to keep them coming back to the dealership in the long haul?
So I think, that's actually a really great question. And I think it all comes down to the customer interaction. And if you have a knowledgeable parts department who is not just trying to only sell Jacob Berry in a rye helmet, but tell them again, take them through the path of the good, better, best. And it's not just helmets, it's jackets, it's tops, it's light bars, it's wheels and tires, it's all of that. And, in parts, you're still a salesperson. You are a parts professional by title, but you're selling stuff. And so I think the initial interaction, if you can be knowledgeable about what you're talking about and say, okay, here's your good, better, best options, and here's why. And you know what, based off of your needs assessment of the customer, I think all in how that first interaction, that's the retention tool that you need. It's no different than in service than on sales, but to have a good knowledgeable parts out of somebody to come in and go, you know what, that dude or that guy or gal knew what they were talking about. I'm going to go back and see them. And if you take care of that customer, and if you communicate with that customer, whether a unit's on or whether a part's on back order, or if something is on back order, if you have the foresight to go, you know what, hey, I'm going to get you taken care of. I'm going to go see if I can find another avenue. That's the problem solving. If you can problem solve for people and communicate effectively, that's your retention tool. You know, um, there's so many there's so many businesses and so many things that people get inundated with. You look at the Amazons of the world, there's Revzilla, there's Super ATV. People are overwhelmed with the amount of availability and product. And so, and I've seen this happen too. When somebody comes in, they're like, oh, well, this is available here. I mean, everything's available everywhere, but you
Yeah.
don't get me. And here's why you need to buy from me is because I'm going to tell you the how, the what, the why as to what you need. And I think Vortex, the optics company, Joe Hamilton has it the best. They have what's called CARE. It's create a rare experience.
Ooh.
And that right there, I think is so powerful. I mean, I only have Vortex on any of my firearms, and they have the best customer service, the best response, the best communication. I mean, and when Joe Hamilton came out with that, like, I mean, I was floored. I was like, I am stealing this. And I sent him a message on LinkedIn. I was like, man, this is the best thing that I've seen. And I think he's a phenomenal leader.
I do. I love that. The care, create a rare experience, CARE. So you brought up Amazon, and we'll kind of end on your parts journey with this, but Amazon maybe wasn't a huge thing when you were in that position. Maybe they were just kind of like, kind of becoming
Sure.
into the mainstream. They for sure are now. What what would be, besides the care part and obviously showing them a good experience while they're there, what would be another way that you can kind of help a customer through this journey so that they get this list of parts, you just spent an hour or two with them, and then they don't go home and they order everything off of Amazon and have it delivered to their door? I mean, that's a real issue that a lot of power sports dealers are facing nowadays, is the Amazons and the buy it online, have it shipped to your door scenario versus walking into a dealership and taking it off the shelf.
I think it's truly understanding what the customer needs and what is going to best suit them. Because, yeah, to your point, I mean, that Amazon's never going away. I mean, I had 3 Amazon packages delivered earlier. It's the convenience piece of what dealers, um, that's what we're fighting as dealerships, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's easy to go online, click a button, and it shows up. But there again, it goes back to how many times have you ordered the wrong thing? Or it said that it was going to do it. But if I tell you, if you come in, I'm like, hey, you know what? Go home this weekend and let me know if this thing fits. I'm going to follow up with you on Tuesday. And I want to make sure that this thing's going to be the right, this was the right part for you. And if it's not, call me back. I'll go ahead and get it returned and we're going to figure this out together. And that's the human interaction piece of all of it. Because you're always going to be able to order stuff online, but I think if you truly hone in on the customer experience and letting the customer like, hey, I can return this and you get me with this and I'm going to follow up with that. And it's having the right stuff in stock too, which being on the part, like being frontline parts counter, you don't really get a whole lot of say in your daily orders or,
Right.
getting to participate in programs and stuff like that. But, I think that comes with training the parts department to focus. Like if you come in and ask for something, tracking your lost sales, right? And I think it's also super powerful to go walk your service lot and see what customers are buying and make sure that you have that on your showroom. And I mean, I think that's a real powerful piece because people are going to vote with their paychecks. Lyle Cropper is notorious for saying that people are going to vote with their paychecks. And so if you go walk the service line, that's a component of being in the parts department and seeing what customers are putting on their machine. They may call Super ATV or they may call Revzilla, but you're going to see what people want if you go in the service department, right? Because they're gonna order it. I'm gonna call you on the weekend and be like, Jacob, I just got some stuff for my side by side. Come over, let's grill out and let's put all this stuff on there, right? But to answer your question directly, I think having like I said earlier, you've got to be knowledgeable and you got to understand what the customer wants. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, again, we're always going to be fighting that uphill battle of online orders, but I think it's that human interaction. I specifically like to go into certain places and have the human interaction because I want to talk with somebody. I want to understand what's the good, better, best. You can find it all day online, but you can't touch it, you can't feel it, and you can't interact with it. So you're literally just pushing a button. And I think people get excited, to go in. I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I got to go to the dealership and get a new audio top. I mean, nobody does that. Everybody gets excited to go in and
Right.
accept us to make it their own, to customize it how they want. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I think there's a lot of the human interaction piece of it.
It does. Yeah. The human interaction, the experience at the dealership, the rapport that you're building, the understanding, the advisement, all that stuff. Well, let's kind of transition here. So after a short while in the parts department, you went to the sales department.
Sure.
What do you think was the hardest adjustment going from the parts counter to the sales floor? And what did that kind of teach you about maybe something that you didn't pick up in parts. It's always the human interaction part is part of both positions, but what's the difference between selling parts and then selling major units?
I think once you get over the fact that you're selling with just a different decimal point, you know what I mean? Like it's in if you're good at selling parts, you can be good at selling major units. I mean, because now you really get people under, people are under the ether. People are excited to do that. So the biggest thing for me was understanding a CRM, understanding follow up, and just really having to tell yourself, like, you've got to pick up that phone for the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth time to call that customer. And then you just never know, because like I see it all the time is leads get burned from, they're like, oh, well, they didn't answer. Oh, they didn't answer my email. They didn't answer my text. But lo and behold, they could have been out of town. They could have, that's the art of the follow up, right? Like
Yep.
you have to be relentless on it. And that was the toughest thing for me to learn, was understanding the CRM and utilizing the CRM to its, full capacity of setting tasks and reminders and truly doing it. Because people say they do it, but it's so easy to click a button now and just, oh, I'll handle that tomorrow. I'll handle that tomorrow. Well, if you don't take care of the customer today, somebody else will. And in the world that we live in today, with AI and all of these tools and programs of follow up, if you don't follow up, somebody else will. I guarantee it. And so that was the biggest thing that, that I really had to learn, because in parts, like, yes, of course you want to follow, but you see three, four, five times as many customers in parts as you do on the sales floor. You only get so many leads and there's only so many people. So then it's, how do you create your own leads? And so that's what I really had to learn and understand was, okay, I got my 5 leads for the day. Now, how do I go get more leads? How do I market myself? How do, social media was, coming on to the game pretty strong. And so that's what I really had to learn, was the art of the follow up, because not everybody's just going to come in and say, okay, yeah, cool, I'll take it.
I had a similar approach. I cut my teeth on follow up, and kind of walking into a sales position in the power sports business, I had carried that over from a previous position, and that was kind of part of it. What CRM are you using? These were in my interview questions. What kind of CRM do you have, and what's your follow up process? What do you dictate? What do you mandate here that I follow up per day? They didn't have any answers to any of that. Hey, I think we use TLP as our CRM. This was way back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, 5 follow up calls per day. I'm like, 5? Shit, I was doing 50 in the previous job before this.
Right.
And so, I had seasoned sales guys asking me why I was calling everybody and telling me, oh, that guy's not a buyer. That guy's not a buyer. Oh, he doesn't want to buy today. He's just tire kicking. And like after a short time, about a year, I had a book of business just for my CRM leads that I had people coming in by appointment, and I didn't have to take fresh ups anymore as a sales guy because I had a strong follow-up game. So I'm right there with you, man. Well, in that kind of same vein, right? So you've been a sales guy, but you've also hired and trained and managed a lot of sales guys at a lot of stores as well.
Correct.
What else do you think separates a good power sports salesperson from an average one? Is it something you teach them, or is it something that you hire for?
So I think it's a combination of both, right? I mean, it's, sales is not for everybody, right? It's very easy to get down on yourself. You're having a bad day, you're having a bad week, you just can't close a deal. I mean, it's very easy to get down on yourself. So in my opinion, I think you can figure out relatively quickly if somebody is going to make it on the sales floor, barring that you give them all the tools to succeed. So it's, and I've seen it. I've seen it even with legacy sales guys, the guys that are just always good for that 25, 30 units a month, right? I mean, to your point, they've got a book of business. People know who they are. They're a staple at the dealership, but even then they can have bad days. And, I think what I try to train all the new sales professionals, guys and girls, it's like, you have to pick up that phone one more time. You have to make that one more post. You have to come in with a smile on your face. Like, you have to come in and prepare every single day, whether you sold 5 units yesterday or you sold nothing. And, I there is a certain what's the word I'm looking for here? I mean, it does take a special person. Like there's a certain mentality that comes with sales, right? I mean, you have to be really good at hearing no,
Yes.
right? I mean, you've got to be good at hearing no and being like, okay, I understand. on to the next, right? On to the next, and then follow up with that person that said no. Then you got to go back to them again. Then you got to follow up with them again, until they literally tell you, I'm blocking your number, right? I mean, that's, and you have to be comfortable with no, right? You have to train. I saw a deal the other day that was talking about professional athletes and the amount of time that they train versus the amount of time that they actually get to play. It's no,
Yep.
it's no different in sales, right? It's the Ken Griffey Juniors of the world who every single day is 100 buckets of, 100 baseballs off of the tee. It's
Yep.
that's very little league. But when one of the best players in the world is hitting off of a T-ball tee 100 times a day. That's why he was one of the best. So you have to really hone in on the things, in my opinion, in sales and get good at the basics, and that will carry you through. Because what I've also seen is it's inevitable. You hire a new hotshot sales guy or girl, and they're off to the races. And even the regular guys are like, good grief, this new person's selling. It's because they don't know what they don't know. They're just
Right.
having fun running around talking and calling to everybody. They're doing exactly what we all train them to do, and then they try to get too cute with it, and they put their own little spin on things. They cut a corner here. It worked the first time, it worked the second and third time, and then they tried again, and then it didn't work. But you know, that's what I think the ultimate demise for a lot of good salespeople is they try to get too cute with it and put their own little spin on things. And you've got to put your own spin on certain criteria, but the baseline never changes,
Right.
right? And so that's one thing that I see a lot, and that's what I train. I'm like, if you will train on these key steps and become a killer at these few steps, I promise you, you will be good. And so, you know, it, to answer your question, sales is not for everybody, but I've also had plenty of people who have surprised me. I'm like, man, I don't know if this personality type is going to work. And they find what works for them and they find their way. And it's always really fun to watch.
Sales is the greatest position, profession in the world, right? It's
100%.
literally limitless as long as you keep your own wits about you and you just follow the fundamentals and you practice. Yeah. Well, clearly you were very good at sales because it earned you a spot in the F&I office. So you moved into the business manager role. You ran the F&I. We've talked a lot about F&I on this show.
Right.
What did being in the box teach you about the customer now, right? You've sold parts, you've sold major units. Now you're on the finance side of it. What did that teach you about the business that you didn't see from the sales floor?
So the thing about F&I is you really have to know your product, right? Because you're selling something that they can't touch, feel, there's very few people that get excited to buy a maintenance contract. It's like, they're all hyped up on their new machine. They went over the parts, they made their machine their own, and then they come into the finance office and now, I hate to say it, but finance can be a very taboo word to a lot of people. Like, man, I'm going to go in here now. I'm going to really get grinded for something that I really have. So I think
Right.
it's super important to understand, again, this is a component of the needs assessment of the customer. It's creating that hassle-free ownership and building value in something and showing them why that they need those products to protect their machine, and really being able to not only understand the product you're selling, but you also have to believe in it. If you don't believe in the product you're selling in F&I, it'll flow out of you and everybody's gonna be like, okay, now we're selling snake oil. When in fact, a maintenance contract and tire and wheel and battery and a vehicle service contract, that is all what somebody truly needs on their machine. We've got side by sides now with 200 plus horsepower that are turbocharged. I mean, good grief. Whoever would have thought when I got on the sales floor, the Razor 800 had come out and it took the side by side game by storm, right?
Yes.
You little box, you could cigar roll that thing every single day. I actually rolled one on a test ride one time right before I left San Angelo, and I had to come back in on the sales floor. I was covered in dirt, scratched up. I mean, it was horrible. And the customer looked at me like, "Oh my gosh," but that's not what we're talking about. But
That's a
uh,
different show.
right, yeah. But no, I mean, like, and I think what a lot of people fail to understand in the finance office is you have to go understand the customer because you have to tailor your products into what the customer is truly going to use. And it's not about offering this wide array to see how much product penetration you can get. I think you truly need to go do the needs assessment of the customer. How are they going to be using it? If there's a trade-in, understanding what worked and what didn't work on their trade. Have you ever had this before? And it's also interesting because I've seen this in a handful of dealerships that I've bought over the years. When we would go buy what I call a mom and pop dealership, we would go in there and then we would start offering products to people. And I was alarmed at how many people were like, "Oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. Y'all have a maintenance plan? Oh, I can get a warranty on this? What's tire and wheel? Wait, what do you mean lifetime battery?" You know what I mean? Like it's educating the customer and making sure that they see value in the products that you're selling. And if you don't believe in them, and if you don't truly understand what it covers, because that's the worst thing ever. You sell somebody a covers that you think it does this, when lo and behold, it does this. Almost invariably, it will happen. Something will go wrong after you told them it's going to cover something and then it didn't. And then now you're the one, now you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite product that you had a lot of belief in, but also made a lot of profit for the F&I department back in the day?
I think packaging is what I truly believed in, and here's why. Because a maintenance agreement and the service contract, those two packages together marry up so well because it's so much easier. And this is the bigger picture that I didn't see when I went into F&I versus what I do now. If you package a service contract and a maintenance plan, you know how much easier that is for your service department to get somebody to like, hey, like, I need an exception on this warranty. Look, I have all the maintenance records right here. They have our maintenance plan. Jacob came in at his break-in service, at his next service, at his next service. You need to cover this. That's
Yeah.
the forest through the trees kind of deal. So I think packaging the deals based off the needs assessment of the customer, so there wasn't really one product that I just absolutely loved. I just loved going in and I was called the box. That was probably one of the most fun times I ever had because you're taking, somebody comes in and says, nope, I don't want any of this stuff. Okay, overcoming those objections and then tailoring and be like, well, hey, I saw your trade back here and I actually went through your service record. You were actually in here and I saw where this was covered under warranty. So you would see value in that, right? And then explaining to them that this service contract and this maintenance contract, the reason why they're married together is because it helps my service department go to bat for you. And it's also that hassle-free ownership where you come in, you just drop the keys and hey, lo and behold, that my master technician back there, he's going to be able to take care of all this. You don't have to worry about anything, and then it's going through, the again, going back to the needs analysis of all of that, of why the customer needs it and just going through and just explaining that. So I think a lot of business managers fail on that and going out and doing an F&I interview or an F&I one, because it's not just to go meet the customer and figure out how they're titling it. Like you truly need to build your menu and your products around what's going to best suit the customer versus just throwing this laundry list of items and what a lot of people think is snake oil when in fact it's not.
I keep hearing the same reoccurring theme with these different positions as you explain them, which is understanding the customer and then communicating what they need as their journey through this power sport buying process looks like, from the parts to the major unit to the F&I. So I think that's what, I'll just say it, is attributed to a lot of your success in this business, is just listening to people, understanding them, and then communicating that back to them, almost repeating what they're saying to you as, okay, well, here's what we suggest, here's what we recommend, here's what we need. So after a stint in the F&I office there in the box, as they call it, you became a general manager, which is the dream for most entry level people at the dealership. Part sales doesn't matter, but now they're running an entire store.
Right.
What do you think the biggest shift from working or running one department, and you've seen them all so far, to being responsible for an entire staff of all the departments and everything as a whole? What's that biggest shift that you realized?
Time management. That is the number one thing that is the number one killer of, I think, GMs. And Andy Frisella says it best. The grim reaper of dreams is selective urgency. And I listened to that podcast. I listened to that one podcast probably every other week because it'll hit you right between the eyes of if you think you're not selective on your urgency, then you're wrong. And I'm guilty of it. And I would challenge anybody who says that they're not guilty of it. But when you become a GM, you have to understand time management. You have to understand people management. You have to understand inventory management, programs. When I became a GM, it was a victory only in pre-owned store. And in a sense, I was very lucky in that because I had two things to be good at. I had to be good at pre-owned and I had to be good at victory. And we were
Yep.
selling 12 to 15 victories at a month. Sometimes it was a little bit less, but man, we were a very good victory dealer. And fortunately, I wasn't, thrown into the fire, if you will, of having, some of these GMs get promoted to failure. And I think it's super critical that, you're a sales manager before you become a GM because you need to understand the programs. You need to understand what each manufacturer has. Because as a sales manager and as a GM, you have to understand all of that. And that's just the sales piece. Then you have to worry about parts inventory. Then you have to worry about parts ordering. And then you've got customers coming into service and then you've got fires back there. And it's just, then it's people management and it's, what does your website, what does your digital showroom look like? And
Yep.
are leads flowing through? And then you've got CRM and it's like, you're running around because you just got a call from a service customer because they haven't, been updated on their machine for over a week. And then you've got a sales professional over here that their CRM's behind. And so, I think I finally started building out when I was managing multiple stores and I would train in GM, I built them out their daily dozen of here's what you do daily, here's what you do weekly, here's what you do monthly. And it's very simple. Your day, I say it's simple. It seems simple to me now, but at first, I remember when I got in there, I was like, "Oh, okay, so yeah, cool. Now I'm a GM." But it's so much more than that. And
Yeah.
by having a task and being good at time management, that that is super critical. And being urgent. It's being urgent and getting the tasks done for your daily dozen every single day. Like you come in the morning, you get your morning task done, and then you have your afternoon, and then you have your late afternoon, like all of those things. And by having a roadmap, if you will, it'll really help you like hone in and get good at certain things and what's critical and what's urgent and making sure that you address those items.
Yeah. Keeping a schedule is super important, prioritizing what needs to get worked on. What was the name of the podcast that you said you listened to?
It's Andy Frisella. It's MFCEO.
Okay. I'm going to check that one out.
I don't
And
remember what
he,
number it is, but the one I'm referring to is called the Grim Reaper of Dreams.
Grim Reaper of Dreams. Okay. Everybody go check that out. It's a great time management podcast. Okay. One other question about the GM level. So clearly, time management is priority one on your list, or at least that's what you learn. But one thing that always I observed at every dealership that I ever walked into is maybe a little disconnect between the different departments: parts, sales, service. You can even argue finance, maybe even the gear and accessories over here. What do most GM and dealer managers, what do they miss when they're trying to manage those departments and getting them to work together rather than in these silos?
That's the $1 million question. It's, that's, any time you're in a dealership, you can always tell a well-run dealership because they don't operate in silos. Right. And it's truly, I think it's also very important, you should be having weekly store meetings where everybody is in the same room, rowing in the same direction, and everybody truly understands the components of parts, of service, of sales, of F&I, because majority of GMs come, I mean, you become a sales manager because you were the best sales guy. You become an F&I or a business manager because you were the best sales guy. And then you go to sales management, right? That just seems to be the natural progression in our industry is
Right.
if you're a hot rod salesperson, you're either going to F&I or you're going to sales management as long as you stick with it. But for me, it was making sure to understand, because it's very easy because for new sales professionals, once they think that they've sold the machine, their job is done.
It's just getting started.
It's just getting started, right? That's the tip of the iceberg of,
Yep.
they need to understand that it's important for the customer to go to parts. And then it's important for the customer to go back to service and have that have that interaction with the service riders and see the service department, because that's what you want. And it's being a GM, and making sure that departments don't operate in silos. They have to understand the true value of each other and ultimately the value to the customer. Without the customer, we don't have a job. And it's also understanding that sales sells the first one, but it's service that sells the second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? I mean, because if somebody has a bad experience in service, or if a salesperson overpromised and underdelivered, I see it happen all the time. Oh yeah, Jacob, absolutely, man. I'm going to go get this thing built. Probably take about 30 minutes, and then we're going to get you on down the road. And it's a Maverick in a crate that takes like 2.5 hours. Like, there's no way. There's not a
Right.
world we live in when a Maverick gets built in 30 minutes. And then what happens, right? Then the salespeople are like, oh man, service dropped the ball, or parts dropped the ball on that. Like, you can't operate that way, right? Because now you're throwing stones at your own team. So it's
Yeah.
getting everybody rowing in the same direction and truly understanding why. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize. That's the forest through the trees of just seeing the broader big picture of everything.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you hired and managed and trained GMs before. So you were a GM for a short while with the Freedom Powersports Group. And then you went from running one store to running multiple. So regional director, managing partner, you've had a couple different roles within the Freedom and the RideNow space. But now you're at a national level, right? So you're overseeing multiple high level GMs and the stores that they run. What breaks in the dealership role when you have so many rooftops to manage? I mean, what does that national director level do? How do they help out the stores that they support? And how can you pull best practices from one or the other?
So when you start overseeing multiple stores, it can get tricky very quickly, right? Because, you may have issue A over here, and then over here you've got issue B and C. And so it's making sure that everybody's on the same page, right? And, one of the toughest things is being able to get everybody on the exact same processes, the exact same flow of everything. And I know that sounds kind of crazy. It's like, well, wait, what do you mean that everybody doesn't do the same process? Everybody does the same process to a degree, but then going back to the new salesperson, and then the tenured salesperson, when they start putting their own little tweak on it, stuff like that. And the toughest thing that I found on that was, you know, we say we're doing it all the same, but we're really not, right? I mean, I've always told him, I'm like, okay, Jacob, if I'm going to send you to this store, you should be able to do the exact same process as you have in your store as I'm doing in my store, so on and so forth, right? It should be just a different set of OEMs or a different building, right? But other than that, but the core process is the same. And, I'm sitting in a composite one time, and the moderator said, I don't ever go to a store and work on anything that could be done on a Google Meet. And I thought that was powerful, right? It's what really worked for me was doing almost a mini composite review of the store to myself to go in and see what I thought from a 30,000 foot view needed to be fixed and to go dig in. Okay, like it's, our parts attachment rate. Well, I need to go understand that process. I think this is a little bit off here, or, our leads are down, or our ROs are stacking up. I mean, you have, when you get to a GM level or a regional level, even when you become an owner operator or whatever it is, you have like that 9 to 5 is gone, right? I
Yep.
mean, if you truly want to be successful at it, you have to look at a 30,000 foot view and have an action plan to go into that store. So what I would do was I would get the top 5 things that GM wanted to cover, and then I would have the top 5 things that I wanted to cover, and I wanted to see how close we were in proximity, right? Like I wanted, and then it was going in and saying, okay, Jacob, here's what I see, and here's what you wanted to go over, but did you notice these things? Right? Here's what happened last month. What worked, what didn't work, and here's the trajectory of where we're headed. So we're going to go dig into these things, right? I mean, you have to have some real substance and an action plan when you go into a dealership. You can't just go in and just be like, hey, I'm cool. I'm here to hang out for the day. What do you want to go over? Right. I mean, there has to be real substance behind it. And I think was the biggest attributor to my success in doing that was making sure that, it's when I was week on, week off in Georgia, when we bought the stores in Georgia, it was sitting on a plane. I would take the last flight out on a Monday. So I'd get to my hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning, but spending that whole time on a plane of just being like, okay, I want to go over these things. You're always going to have fires to put out, right? I mean, you're going to go in, I think Mike Tyson said it, everybody has a plane until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is retail, and when you're running stores, you better get used to that. You better get comfortable with that, because you're going to go in with a plan, and then your whole day is just going to turn into a dumpster fire if you allow it to, right? So, but I think it's having like a real cadence of information and a review and understanding of what are you trying to accomplish? What is the goal when you go in there? You
That's
know
so
what
smart. Yeah,
And
you talk.
whether it be aged inventory, or whether it be, we've got OBS stacking up, or we've got RO stacked up, like you need to go in and dig, and you need to be prepared to get dirty and ask some really tough questions, because that's the only way you're going to grow an operator.
Yeah.
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 When you're scaling, large stores, at that level, yeah, you got to have some really high level stuff to come in with. You mentioned standardizing some processes, right? You're doing it one way at one store, doing another way at another store. It's got the same name on the building, just different locations,
Right.
and kind of just making sure that the best process prevails company wide, so you can step into one role or another and just have it be the same. But what does it come with standardizing some of the technologies or some of the systems that the dealers are using? So everybody's on the same reporting mechanism. Everybody's using a similar CRM. Everybody's using the same website. Just kind of makes it easier. What's your opinion on, at a regional or a national level, standardizing things across the tech stack as well?
I think that's super, super important that everybody is on the same thing, because you're only training one thing at that point. It's very tough to be good at, at the company I'm at now, we just moved to a new CRM, and, it's, you have to be good at it, better than the people that are using it. And it kind of, we just closed on 2 new stores. So this all kind of happened at once. Right. So, but I mean, what I'm getting at I think it's critical that, like, same website. So that way, when you go into store A, you're looking at the same set of data, or the same backend, the same CRM. That way you're training the same thing, because what I've seen in the past too is, um, having multiple rooftops and having something shiny over here and something different shiny over here. I think it's almost kind of a waste of time, because why would you not all want to be on the same thing? Because if I'm having an issue with something, then I need to call you. If you're at store A and I'm at store B and you're doing something really well, I think that's really important and a good culture to have, to where you're talking in intercompany. And that's why it's so critical, because if you're doing something really well and I'm not doing something really well, but we're on 2 different systems, I don't really have a phone a friend approach to call other than the company that's using it. So if you can
Mhm.
get the same processes and procedures in place, which should be happening, that's easier said than done. But if you're all using the same tech stack, then you can all put best ideas together. Like, hey, I found this report. I think it's phenomenal. It shaved 30 minutes off my day. Oh, well, hey, where's that report? You know, it's like, oh, it's under this daily activity button. You're like, oh, good grief. Like, yeah, I've been looking for that. You know what I mean? So I think that's good. Um, when you have everybody on the same tech stack for all of that, you know, like we have Moto Hunt across, I mean, everybody has Moto Hunt now, like with our company. So now it's like, oh, hey, yeah, go here, run this report. Oh, I didn't even know that was there. Yeah. And it's also good because then that synergizes everything, right? Because the visibility that you give the operators, now they can look at your inventory, or I can bid something. I'm like, hey, Jacob, hey, I need you to jump in. Like, I created an appraisal on this. You have this brand. I don't. Can you help me out? I
Yep.
think that's really important.
Super important. Yeah. Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Right.
So let's talk about the scaling. Just one more part here that I've got is, you've obviously been involved in a lot of acquisitions, not only now, but previously, buying stores, acquiring different locations. They come with their own set of challenges. For a single store dealer listening to this now, or even maybe a small group owner that has 1 or 2 locations now, that has dreams of scaling up to 10, 20, 30 different stores in their lifetime, what is the honest advice? What should they fix before they even thinking about bringing in a second or a third location?
If your current dealership is broken now, it'll never be better if you add a whole nother dealership to it. And when I say broken, I mean you're not looking at another dealership to go buy something if you've got a broken store. But what I mean by broken, if it's not dialed in really tight, or at 80-90%, you're only going to add to your stress level, to your problems of just, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm making this much money on one. What if I had another one? I could double my income. It doesn't work that way. Right. I mean, at Freedom, we were growing so fast. I mean, we went from 2 stores to 4 stores to 7 stores. I mean, and this was all in a span of 18 to 24 months. I mean, we were buying stuff left and right. And, Kevin and Sean and Daniel and I we're like, man, like we're growing quick. Like we got to be good at this quickly. So for somebody who's thinking about taking that leap of faith and buying another store, I would really make sure that your dealership as a whole is a well-oiled machine. Because if not, you're only going to stack problems. Because if you're operating at 50%, you're almost going to go backwards, right? Because it's tough to run 2 stores, and you better have a good core team. You need to have a good operator, a good management group at that one store, because when you exit out of that store, that's really the telltale sign of a well-run dealership, or in my opinion, a good owner, is if you can step out and the dealership so operates. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the only way to be successful, because you are going to have to pour almost 100% of your time into that new acquisition, because you've got to retrain everybody. I mean, I bought plenty of dealerships that didn't have a CRM, and that didn't have a process and didn't have inventory control and all that, and that takes real effort to do. And I think a lot of people lose, or they get amnesia about what it really takes to set up a dealership and grow one and get everything moving in the right direction. I mean, there's people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years and still have that issue. I mean, truth be told, same as me, right? I mean, you roll out a process and you see something that kind of tweaks a little bit, guys, we got to get back to this. I mean, you're constantly going to be doing it. So if you're looking at another dealership, I would look internally first and say, okay, if I step out, is this dealership still going to operate without me?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to have a clean house before you go clean somebody else's. And
100%.
yeah, I mean, I even our old ownership, Mr. Tack, he always used to say that I would get a store to 90%, because that last 10% to become 100% effective or efficient or perfect was always the hardest part. Right. You put in all of your standardized processes, procedures, the tech stack, the whole thing. And it is now one of your group stores, but
Right.
you're always operating at a 90%. And he would just say, well, I just go acquire another store at that point, but I leave it to my directors and my team who I put in there to get that gap between 90 and 100%. And
Exactly.
most of the time it worked, and he had guys like us to help him with that. And yeah, we
Sure.
did pretty good.
Yeah.
But in March of this year, you announced that you were stepping out of a role, and after 15 years in this climbing of the ladder, you kind of framed it as one chapter closing and another one opening. Kind of walk us through what you're doing now.
Right. So I joined the Zia and Lonestar Powersports group that's owned by Tanner and Trey Gurn. And they had 4 stores. We're in an acquisition for 2 more. And I called Tanner and Trey, and I've kept up with them over the years. Super small world. Tanner was my sales manager when I got into the industry in '08, when I was on the sales floor, when he was with family. And him and Trey took the leap of faith 10, 11 years ago and bought their first store in Clovis, and then bought another store in Roswell. And, then it became Amarillo, then it was Abilene, and now we've got these other 2 that we closed on Monday. So that was super exciting. So now we're at 6 locations, and I'm on as the director of operations.
Congratulations, man. Yeah, Tanner's a great guy. Met him at a AIM Expo a number of years back. Talked to him about Moto Hunt, and yeah, he was on our system as one of our early adopters, and it's just been a great relationship with him so far.
For sure.
And I'm super happy to have you there now, kind of running the show, and making sure you're getting your processes and your arms around this new group and acquiring stores. It's really exciting to see.
For sure.
I'm sure there's some more coming down the road here very, very soon. But when you kind of look at your whole career now, and it's a little bit of a step back, but at the same time it's a step forward, because now you're with a little bit tighter, close group here with the Lone Star and Zia people. But when you look at it as a whole, I mean, So much of your identity is kind of wrapped up into the title and the responsibility. I mean, how do you think about, who you are outside of being the GM and then the national director now with this new group and just kind of getting your arms around things?
Yeah, so I wouldn't view it as a step back. I mean, this is what I love to do. I love being in stores. I mean, and I learned so much being with the RideNow group, and from Cam, Wild, Chestnut, Tyler Steinmel, like all those guys. I mean, that they are an absolute wealth of knowledge. And seeing and being an integral part of an operation that size was, a blessing, right? I got to learn so much from all the great operators that RideNow has, and then I was, super thankful that the guys and girls that were with us at Freedom got to see all of that. And so, I'm not viewing it as a step back. I mean, because this is what I love to do, is being in a store and grinding with the operators, and problem solving every single day. And I think, that's what I'm most excited about. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun. Tanner and Trey have built an incredible culture at these dealerships. The staff is great. They've got a great business, and they're a few years older than me, and we're all young and eager and willing to grow. And clearly, but again, we just bought those, or they just bought those two dealerships. We closed on Monday, and this is getting back to what I really enjoyed doing, which was being in the stores and problem solving and setting new processes and procedures with these new stores, and providing insight and stuff that I've seen in the past to the current staff that was with them. And it's really exciting. Like, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, I can tell, man, talking with you, it seems like it's kind of reinvigorated you a little bit.
Right. For sure.
And I would argue that this industry, it tends to chew up some people and spit them out. How
Sure.
should someone who's trying to build a career in power sports, similar to how you did, starting entry level and making it all the way to the heights that you're at now, how can what should they plan for? What should they be thinking about? What is their attitude all about for sustaining a long career without burning themselves out in this industry?
I mean, I totally get what you're saying, right? I mean, I've seen people get burned out. I mean, I think you just have to look within. Like, if this is this truly what you love to do? Like, are you having fun? And you have to enjoy what you're doing, because I mean, to your point, I mean, this industry can be very challenging, right? I mean, you've got headwinds, you've got I mean, like, you've got all these things that you just have to pay attention to, market adjustments, so many things, right? So, somebody who's getting burned out, you have to look in the mirror, like, okay, is this a me thing? Is it because my dealership's failing? Is it because there's no growth in the current opportunity that I've got? I mean, I've seen that, people are constantly changing companies. And for somebody who wants to truly grow, look in the mirror. Is this truly what you want to do? Because, the old term, it's lonely at the top, right?
Yep.
The higher you climb, it's, there's so many more responsibilities. There's so many more things that you have to manage, and managing people, which is tough. Managing people is one of the toughest things ever, right? So if someone's getting burned out, it's like, okay, why are you getting burned out? Is it because you're stuck? Like, is there no growth path? And if there is a growth path, do you want? Um, the easiest thing for growth. Um, I'm gonna give a shout out to Clay Wallace at Right Now. He said something in a composite that I never knew how to articulate in words as to how, like, what I attributed my success to. But he said, "Master the job in front of you, be a student of the job ahead of you, and be a teacher of the job below you." And I thought that was one of the most incredible sayings I stole it from him. So sorry, Clay, if you're listening to this, I'm definitely using it. But when he said that, I was like, okay, like, I think that's great. And so for somebody who is getting burned out, it's, are you tired of trying to master the job in front of you? Are you tired of being the teacher, or are you tired of being the student? And I think that's what somebody really has to look within themselves and say, am I just tired of doing this? Or, for me, I used to have a saying on the back of my phone. It was on my screensaver, and it said, I hope somebody looks at me one day and says, because of you, I didn't quit. Like, that to me was my biggest driving force. I wanted to impact somebody's life, and I wanted somebody to call me one day. I actually, I had a sales guy. He was on the floor for me. He was in college, and I got to write a recognition letter so he could get into pharmacy school. And I was just elated. Like, cause I mean, he was like, dude, you taught me so much. You taught me about leadership. You taught me about work ethic. Like that to me was gratifying. And so what I'm saying in all of this and going full circle, if somebody's getting burned out, you're probably tired of being one of those three, of being either a teacher, a student. And if you are, then, I hate that because this industry is great, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. And so, I would just challenge just to look within. Like, are you afraid to let go of the vine? Are you not delegating enough? Are you not growing your management staff so you can step away to do that? I mean, I think that's super powerful. You got to be able to delegate and you have to be able to trust the people who you put in place to make decisions. Because if not, you're going to burn yourself out. Right. You can't just bogart all this stuff and expect to get it done or have a
100%.
quality of life to
100%.
do it.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who would give you their gratitude that you've impacted on their life in a positive way for sure. For sure. I love that. Clay's a
I
smart
thought it
guy.
one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. And it's so true because, when you and I were talking about this, a lot of people ask me like, man, like, how do I grow? How do I get to what you've done? Or how do I get to the next level? I had a sales guy ask me the other day. He said, man, I want to be I really want to be a sales manager. I said, okay, cool. You need to go sit with the sales manager and understand and ask questions. That's being a student. And I used this line to him and he goes, I love that. And,
Mic
I've had
drop.
sales managers and GM ask me the same thing. They're like, dude, like, how do I become a regional? How do I want to do this? I'm like, okay, who's your replacement? My first question, who's your replacement?
Yep.
And then you always get the 1,000-yard stare. Like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, until you have that, you're not going anywhere. That was the only way that I was able to ever do was I was always in Daniel Ariaga's or Tanner's office when I was on the sofa. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And they'd be like, get away from me. Like, hey, you need to go close this deal. You can come back out. You can come back when we're closed and I'll show you what I'm doing. But like, I was constantly asking questions. Right. And then, when I was a sales manager at GM, like I was I was trying to grow the bench. Right. And that's another way for dealerships that are going like, man, I don't know if I want to take the leap of faith with the second, third, or fourth store. You got to have a bench because there's nothing better than going in and having somebody to help you set up that store that knows your process. Like that high level GM that you've got now, they need to be able to go in and train those people with you so you can divide and conquer. But going back to the growth pieces, that's the number one hindrance that I see is everybody's afraid to train their replacement because they think they're going to work themselves out of a job. And I can't beat that into people's heads enough. If you have your replacement, that is the only way to go up,
Yep.
right? I mean, because no one's going to, I can't take my high level GM or my high level sales manager out of there because then the store's going to fall on its face or that department's going to fall on its face. That's great. You have aspirations for growth, but you got to have your replacement. Well, I mean, what happens when they can do as good as I am? Then that's a testament to you because you are the best teacher. That is a test. That's a feather in your cap. We used to throw out bonuses where if I would pluck somebody out of your store, I gave the GM a bonus because you trained him. I need that guy to be a sales manager.
I
And
love that.
and I know that I'm pretty sure they do that at RideNow. But like if we took somebody out, if we were going to go get another store, and if you were at store A and I plucked your sales manager or I plucked your sales guy because they were the next one up, that's a testament to you because you built them. And so I think you should be compensated for it.
Hell yeah. I think it's also like an insecurity thing. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. You go, well, what if they're better than me and they take my job? Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. You got to get over that so that you can move on, maybe with the same company, maybe somewhere else, but you got to fill that position that you're leaving behind for sure.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right. So,
I would always hire people that were better than me in that position. And everybody's like, they're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
that's the
I
secret.
surround myself with people who are better than me because what does it do for me? It makes my growth trajectory better, right? I mean, that's what you should do. You should never be too proud, I mean, to hire somebody who you think is better than you
Yeah.
and then manage them. The best players are not always the best coaches, right? But some of the best coaches were some of the worst players, but they know how to motivate people and they know how to get the desired outcome of what they're after.
Next man up. Right.
So exactly.
Okay. So, thank you again for being so open today. I
Absolutely.
wanted to I kind of wanted to end on two last things here in this 15-year career, which has been super impressive. You've done it all. You've worked in all the positions. You made it to such a high level. And now you're the guru in our industry right
I don't
now.
know about that, but
What
thanks.
is, what, just kind of wrap it up for me here, man. Out of all the dealers and operators listening to this today, they're looking for the same approach. Maybe some of them are in different levels that you've already hit. What's the most single thing, important thing that you learned in your 15 plus years of doing this? And what do you want them to take away from it?
Man, I hope everybody still gets excited to get up and go open your dealership every day. Like, if you don't get the same excitement putting that key in the door, flipping the lights on, and getting ready for the show, I mean, that right there is the most fulfilling thing ever. And so, and just instilling that in people, that is the number one thing, right? I mean, like, you should walk up with a sense of pride to your store and go, man, today's going to be the day. This is going to be a good one. So, that's one thing that I think that I would like to see for everybody is have that little kid excitement when you walk in the door every day and you get to be in probably arguably the funnest industry ever. You know,
Ever.
and don't lose that fire. I mean, go back to the porter and tell him hi. How was your weekend? I mean, like, you've got to have that from the top to the bottom, side to side. You should be excited and have that little kid excitement every single day you walk in your door.
That's so great. Yeah. All right. So, last question here before we close. I wanted to hit on this because I know that you're super involved in the veteran Xtreme Adventures.
Yes, sir.
Um, Kind of tell the people here what it is and why this matters to you so much. I see you posting about it all the time. You're sharing your experience with it. What is it? How are you involved in it? And just kind of tell us what it does.
Sure. So Veterans Xtreme Adventures it's founded up here in DFW. I live right outside of Weatherford, and it's just a group of guys. I'm the only civilian that sits on the board. And basically what we do is, we take veterans who are having maybe having a rough time or just need some camaraderie, want to come hang out and just, get out of their day to day. And so, we'll take them thermal hunting, we'll take them fishing, we'll just talk. If somebody just wants to talk, we'll go hang out, we'll have dinner, we'll have lunch. And it's a super powerful organization. And because the veteran community is so underserved, there's a bunch of great programs out there, right? I mean, you got Folds of Honor, Wounded Warriors, you've got all those 22 kill. But this is just a group of us. There's 6 of us, and one of them's a firefighter, one of them's a regional director for United Rentals. We don't draw any money off of this. And, this is all funded from our donors and from us. And so we'll take veterans and, let's just, I want to get you out of the house. I want to get you out of work. Let's go and let's just not worry about anything. Let's go on a fishing trip. Let's go on a thermal hunt, or let's go to lunch and just talk. And so, I mean, the need for just communication and brotherhood and sisterhood of all of that is such a needed area in that space. And so that's what we're all about. And we're all super passionate about it. Again, we all have day jobs, and I got involved. It was actually in our Decatur store with Freedom. The old president walked in. I had no idea who it was, and he came up and said, "Hey, are y'all renting side by sides?" I was like, "Man, we don't rent side by sides." I was like, "Man, what do you need to rent for?" He's like, "I've got my side by side out here, and I've got an amputee veteran, and it broke down in the middle of the field, and I have no way to get them back out." And within about 30 seconds, I called. I was like, "Hey, I need this machine loaded up on this trailer. Hey, take this, sign this waiver, go get that veteran." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Yes, load it up. Here's a brand new machine. Go get him or her." I'm pretty sure it was a male. I was like, "Go get him out of there. Go get him out of there. Bring me your side by side, and we're going to get it fixed." And then the rest is history. And that would have been right around 2015, 2016. So, it's a super cool organization, and I'm blessed and honored to be a part of it.
That's great, man. And it's a testament to people having extracurricular activities related, unrelated to the day job that they have now, but having something that you're equally as passionate about from your 9 to 5 to be able to translate this to helping people out. And I can't think of a better place than veterans and taking them out on hunting and fishing trips. I mean,
Right.
that's just super cool in itself. So
Right.
my hat's off to you, man. That's a great thing that you're
Thank you.
doing there.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. All right, everybody. Well, I think that we should land this plane. His name is Chase Vance, and he is out there in Texas making waves, being awesome, and he climbed the ladder. Anybody that wants to get a hold of him, how can they find you, Chase? How can they reach out to you?
I think about the only platform I'm on is LinkedIn, but I'm happy to help anybody if they want to reach out to me or, reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll give somebody a call. But thank you for having me, Jacob.
Yeah, anybody who has any questions about how they can climb the ladder too at their organization or within the industry, I'm sure he'll be happy to help them out. And as everything that we do here, just want to say thank you. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you hit that follow button. If you need more information about Moto Hunt, that's at dealers.motohunt.com. And I think on that note, we'll say bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
This episode is brought to you by ZDMS. Okay, guys, physical inventory. Most dealers do it once a year. Some avoid it altogether. And honestly, who can blame them? Closing the store for days, paying staff to count parts, and still ending up with inaccurate data, it's a painful process that costs time and money. ZDMS changes that. With RFID physical inventory, 1 or 2 employees can complete a full store count in a single evening. No closing, no disruption. Just pull the trigger on a handheld scanner and walk the floor. No line of sight required, no climbing shelves, no bending under counters, just fast, accurate counts feeding directly into your ZDMS system. And because it runs inside ZDMS's perpetual inventory system, your data is always current. That means better analytics, less obsolescence, and fewer lost sales. This is the technology powersports dealers needed. And ZDMS is the only DMS in the industry to build it. Talk to your ZDMS rep today, or to learn more, visit zdms.com/fixit.